thank you so much for taking time to speak with me today. Could you take a second to introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about the work that you do?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, John. Excited to be here. I appreciate it and also the opportunity. Zane Syed, I'm actually currently working in the IT industry. Well, I would say I've always been working in the IT industry for the last 20 plus years. And currently, I'm a sales leader at a software company based out of Houston. And we sell different type of solution into the banking segment, so to speak. Yeah, and I have been a sales leader for roughly about 5 years, and we have a term that called IC, which is individual contributor. So the remaining 15 years, I've been, reporting into a sales leader role, and now I had the opportunity to become a leader myself. So, yeah.
Was climbing to a leadership role something that you had targeted and worked towards, or was it more of an opportunity that presented itself?
I think, yeah, good question. So there's always, of course, a element of that you are aspiring to something, and you say, okay, this is but I also wanted to be a bit more natural. And I think when this opportunity came, I thought, yes, let's avail that possibility really. But I always like to maybe set some goals and you're always hoping to, of course, achieve them. So, but this came up, and this was my fourth company, really. So moving into a smaller company, when working with IBM and Oracle, which are big giants.
Yep.
So this was a different trajectory to take. Yeah.
Okay, so as a leader now, a lot more responsibility from that individual contributor type role. How do you keep the people that have you as a leader? How do you keep them engaged? What are the challenges that prevent people from being fully engaged?
Mm, so maybe I would say if we have to maybe put in so one way that I like to maybe operate is I would like to always operate in terms of models, some sort of
Sure.
a an approach, and I would say I'm like the servant leader. Really like to be open and transparent, uh, give my, I would say, the peers and the people around me to say, listen, let's let's have that sort of a openness that you can come and have you're seeking support whenever you actually need to, but also I would say people need to be feeling comfortable that they can come and open up emotionally.
Mm.
That if it's not everybody who are maybe in feeling very comfortable in when they are experiencing difficulties, I would say. So you need to have that openness and being able to show vulnerability. And I think it starts with you first, really showing that, listen, here I am as a person, and I can be vulnerable. I can also be strong. I can also be resilient. But this is me first as an individual, and then I think slowly and gradually people will around you will, of course, hopefully appreciate it, but also start opening up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like the approach, and we're all multifaceted beings, right? But it takes a lot of
Mhm.
confidence to lead with vulnerability. What was your journey to be able to show those different sides that would help create that space for others to feel safe to
Mm.
express their
Yeah.
needs?
Yeah. Good question. So I think it starts in terms of so I always say if I didn't know you, John, and I didn't want to know what your job title was, your education background is, or then who are you as a person? Can you start maybe putting words on that? Tell me. So when you take all these accolades that we have, all these, then who are we really as people? And I think that is this sort of a conversation I want to go in. So you can of course start with it. And by the way, I would say this team that I have, they're seasoned. They have been around the block, I would say. Most of them, not all of them, but some of them have grandchildren. So also when you have a younger profile to say, okay, how can I actually, what is the value that I can actually add in to our relationship? But again, talking about the challenges that you actually experienced, um, I think that is always a good starting point. And also sometimes about, so I always say whether you succeed or fail, there's one common denominator. You will always learn something. Yeah.
Mm.
Even with your failures and also with your wins. So I think it's try to position them in a sensible manner, which is actually understood and appreciated. And of course, I think that being in sales, you have to be, good in accommodating people. We're good in regulating our emotions, good in identifying, what is the person that I'm sitting in front with, what is hopefully always say to myself, I try to limit my conversations too much, but I will say that, try to use your ears and mouth accordingly. Try to listen a bit more
Well,
than
then,
talking. Yeah, yeah. So it's about finding the right balance and always going in open. Say, like I said, I like this concept of servant leader. That I'm
yeah,
actually here to serve you. I'm here to mitigate your challenges. Tell me, and also come with the solution that you think is there. Um, we are here to facilitate and not maybe always apply a direct decision making. I think when you have seasoned people, you need to respect their experience as well and what they might actually deem appropriate. And what would you actually do in this certain case? How do you think we can overcome this challenge? So more of a coaching style, I would say, than
yeah,
actually, yeah, than being directive. Yeah.
yeah. As I think we transition, and I believe in servant leadership, and I'm so glad to hear that is a framework that that you aspire to, that you employ. But the command and control is hard to let people. I guess that would kind of be how I would describe the opposite of that. Is like you tell people what to do instead of ask, and you don't bring in that human element. It's a hard transition when you have this well-seasoned team. I think that maybe grew their careers under a different style of leadership. Was there any challenges to kind of your approach with folks who may have, cut their teeth, so to speak, on more of that command and control type style?
Yeah, yeah. You're absolutely right. I would say so. I have maybe the opportunity of been working for many years in Scandinavia, for instance, where I think the whole approach of leadership is a lot more grounded. You are sitting in the same room, an open space type of environment where I would say here in the States, and especially in the field of banking, financial services, very typical conservative, and not a conservative in a negative manner, but they have a certain style. So I think that I feel there's a lot more directions that your peers are looking for. They want to have that direction. They want you to set the goals and yeah, I would say they are more directive in that aspect, and they're looking for answers sometimes as well. But again, it's a balance. Each so we do have some metrics. We do have some clear cut goals that we need to meet, and we're talking
Sure.
about numbers. So numbers are very this is the number that we're set to meet, and now let's go and get it. And how to actually get there in that journey, I think can very much be a different approach. But I do actually feel here, at least parts of the states, the employees, they are looking for more directional approach. That being said, I do have some members on the team who are in their early 70s. So what type of direction are you going to give them? They've tried more or less everything. So I'm probably more relaxed with them because they have been, like I said, they have been adaptive in their career, and I still think it's fascinating that you still want to work in a very competitive and challenging environment.
Yeah.
Meeting up your quotas every year, you have to deliver the results, but they enjoy that. So of course I'm also learning something from them, and what I again common denominator, you need to be passionate about this. One of the gentlemen's he said, I actually did retire for 2 years and I was so bored. I did all the skiing, all the traveling, did all the cruises, and I said, listen, I need to get back in the game. Otherwise, I'm just gonna evaporate. And I actually like this. I said, well, so what made you come back, and why did you want to pursue this? And he said, well, it's just to have a purpose,
Mm.
really enjoy it, and again, I think we are discussing a bit earlier that if you can, find a challenge, some difficulties, compelling pain that you can solve, mitigate, remove, that is also a purpose. Yeah, even if it comes to selling, software solutions. Yeah, so.
Yeah, well, it's yeah, purpose is very powerful. And another thing I heard kind of woven into what you were
Mhm,
saying as you were speaking is that your approach really requires seeing someone for who they are, understanding what their wants and needs are,
mhm,
right? And I don't care what age you are, when somebody
mhm,
takes time to understand your perspective,
mhm,
you feel it on a
mhm,
a very deep level. And whether you're
mhm,
conscious of what that does to you or not, it does impact every single one of us.
mhm,
That
mhm.
trope of being seen and heard sometimes gets misaligned, but humans, it's a human
Yeah,
trait.
yeah.
Like when you pause to recognize it, you notice that people feel a certain way.
Mhm,
The work that you're doing, you mentioned emotional regulation. And I'm hearing that,
mhm,
from the servant leadership and understanding,
mhm.
the needs of someone, maybe even before they express them. What's your journey been like to understanding emotions and how they show up for others and yourself?
Mhm. Um, yeah, very good. I think this is a very, very pivotal part of regardless of which type of job role you're doing. You can, I think the ability to share your own experience, as we discussed, both the negatives and the positives. I think emotional regulation is you can very quickly get into a rabbit hole. uh, you know, let's just say a bad week, customers calling in saying this is not good enough, an escalation, a proposal you've sent, the price is too high, or this is too ridiculous, we're removing you, we're going for a different vendor. Um, I think you can very easily go down a trajectory which is with a lot of negative sentiment towards yourself and your surroundings. And the possibility and to control your thoughts, you're actually the only person who can do that. And this is a very strong message that I always say to the team and vice versa, is that we need to control our thoughts. Sometimes things are what they are, but can we, in this situation we're in, try to find some positives? And always think of this as an external, and it should not really affect us when we log off and we're together with our family or loved ones, that this is a task that we're doing. But I do, of course, see that when people are under stress, they tend to make, not tend to, but they can make very very bad decisions. And ideally you want to maybe avoid that bad decision in terms of maybe yourself, but also with your partners and your colleagues, and of course towards customers as well. So I think this is very, very important that you try to I call it, positive imagery, that you think of something which can regulate you in a more positive manner. But it is tough. One thing is talking about it, and the other thing is actually doing it.
In the
But
moment, yeah.
yeah, in the moment. But being in an environment where you can articulate this feeling and you can share it, and maybe so one of the things that worked for me when getting into a managerial role, was to share the things that work. So as an IC, individual contributor, you maybe want to have a safe haven, a room with the rest of the account managers or your peers, where you can discuss the management, the company, so forth. But it's the safe sort of a haven where you can share your thoughts and
As part of
yeah, yeah,
process, not
exactly,
like
exactly,
sticking to
exactly,
them. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. But I guess the common goal is that we're always trying for a purposeful direction. Yeah, that is what the aim should be towards yourself as a human being. That whatever I'm actually doing will have some at least a positive effect towards something which is purposeful. Yeah, and I guess going back to my the gentleman coming back of retirement, again, that is trying to have some sort of relevance and in your life as well. I think is all about setting your own goals and really hoping how can I actually achieve them in some sort of a manner. But I guess emotional regulation is definitely overlooked, and we should. I just think it makes people more stronger. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I have gone down, a lot of research rabbit holes on this, emotional regulation in the context of leadership,
Mhm,
just emotion skills in general. And I found that a lot of people have a misunderstanding of emotions. And there's things that can appear on the surface like regulation, but in fact are more aligned to compartmentalization or suppression. So
mhm, mhm,
there's an image that I use
mhm,
in my coaching practice and some of the culture work, is that when there's that emotion that you're holding or that comes up, right? And you're in a situation where you need to ideally
mhm,
regulate the emotion. But
mhm,
oftentimes it's like a beach ball and you're standing in chest deep water and you have to
mhm,
push it
mhm,
down. And
mhm,
yeah,
mhm,
you can push it down and
mhm,
nobody will see it, but it
mhm,
takes a lot of effort. And eventually,
mhm,
like you will get tired. The part of your brain that
mhm,
is involved in regulation
mhm,
chews up a lot more energy.
mhm,
And so if you're tired or if you're under
mhm,
pressure,
mhm,
like you don't have the energy. This is where bias comes in. You look for the quickest solution.
mhm,
Sometimes
mhm,
that's just fake it or suppress it instead
mhm,
of process it.
mhm.
So the funny thing about emotions is that they always change.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're pretty bad at forecasting as human
Mhm,
beings. Like we think that
mhm,
the emotional state that we're in is
mhm,
likely going to be the same
mhm,
state that we're in the near future or a little bit far out.
mhm, mhm.
You see this in like
No,
workout plans, right? I'm going to do
yeah.
this. I'm going to always feel motivated to work out. And then a week later, you
Mhm.
are not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
similarly, when you're in an upset state, it feels like it's never going to end.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's just not. When you have a safe space to either process or just even have someone listen to you,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
huge de-escalation tactic that allows somebody to get regulated and
Yeah.
employ that higher functioning part of the brain.
Mhm.
You speak of these things as like these simple kind of additives, but there's such like complexity
No,
to it, and
yeah,
I
yeah,
love the
yeah,
approach.
yeah, yeah. I think this is a definitely the more you get into, and when you are dealing with people, these are human beings, these are individuals. The approach for redirecting, whenever you hit an obstacle, but and you'll have some sort of a range of emotions, some sort of a sentiment that you have the that you can anticipate mentally. Okay, I need to change this, and redirect this to a new reality, a new change, a new approach. I think this is something that every leader, or even I would say regular people, me and you, don't have to be in a managerial role or leadership role, but in general, this is a task that everybody needs to learn. Uh, honestly, if you have children, it'll probably come a bit more natural to you, because that, okay, I still love the child. I'm not going to throw him out, him or her out, and I need to redirect this into something else. But uh, again, so one of the things I remember that coming into becoming a leader was said that, oh, what I'm going to do is that I'm gonna the whole churn, the people leaving the company, I want to change that. Yeah, I rather want my fellow colleagues to stay in the company, and let's reframe the challenges that you have, and stay within the company. And then so my experience as well, in different companies that I've been in there, that you don't leave because they have bad products. You leave because they're bad leaders,
Mm.
that they have not been there with a helping hand. And that's why, so I remember saying, well, I'm going to be this type of leader that I will do the utmost, everything that I can, which is in my possible realm, to make sure that whatever frustrations you have, let's try to solve them together. And sometimes there are things that you cannot really change. You cannot change a target. You cannot change a financial scope. But you can change your aptitude, your mindset towards that. Say, okay, what can I do to ensure that you have the time to make you successful? Yeah, I will give you that time. Let me know what is that you need. Can you put some words on it? So I think that is some of the things I wanted to do, definitely, because most of the times that I maybe left, some really professional, big, large companies, was the fact that I was, one, maybe not meeting the the aspirations that I had, that nobody was maybe listening and directing me towards this,
Hmm.
and not maybe giving the right attention and time, and the correctness, call it whatever you want. And you thought, okay, things might be, the grass is going to be greener on the other side. It can happen, of course. The grass can be greener, but sometimes it can also be that you are going for a different companies because you want to scale up your level of competencies. But most of the time, I think it's about yeah, trying and then seeking some new avenues. Yeah. So I think the core is right down to human being, people that you like and dislike. Yeah.
So, I mean, this through line of human connection, right? I've got a two-part question here, right?
Mhm.
I love it. I think it's more important than ever. How would you encourage leaders to invest in human connection without feeling like they're sacrificing productivity?
Very good question. Mm, I wouldn't say that. I don't think you have to sacrifice productivity. If I have to maybe turn it the other way around, sometimes uh, so let me give you an example. I would say that, so I've had leaders, in my 20 years of career, in a very, I would say, IT industry is not where you probably have people with with a good, you could say, engaging capacity. They can be very, very technical. They have, I would say, and no offense to the engineers, but they're their what do you call it, the human aspect, their ability to engage with the emotional intelligence, that side of that brain is probably not so um not, I'm not going to say evolved, that was wrong, but
But
you
like
know, there
for
are
me,
some,
like
yeah,
more process,
yeah,
more
exactly.
clarity,
So
task kind of
yeah,
orientation.
yeah. But but you're absolutely right. When you are getting into and you have to, so the typical trajectory of a in IT industry for sales or in careers is you are the expert and you have been in this company and you've been engaging in bigger and bigger deals and you have been performing very well. You have been delivering the financial metrics and you get a promotion. Yeah. This is the typical trajectory. Salespeople, same thing. You've been meeting the numbers, you've been selling a deal, and you have had you're fortunate enough. There's been timing where you have been able to solve this product or solution, and and you're succeeding.
Yep.
Um, but I guess there is this element of emotional intelligence that needs to be practiced. So whenever you are dealing with human, I think there is definitely a lot more awareness now, especially also in all type of industries. But I'll give you an example. I remember taking the time. And one of the leaders I was reporting to, he said, "Well, I'm taking over this team. Let's meet, and we're not going to go to a fancy restaurant. I want to invite everybody home. Yeah, I want you to see how I live, and I would like to let's do something collectively. Let's sort of bringing in food. Let's make some food. Any ideas?"
Mm.
And people were like, "Oh, do we now have to sit and cook? I don't want to cook." But I remember it's one of the best performing and productive team I've ever been part of. Because everybody, it's just that he and she took the time and said, "Listen, this is the way I am. This is again, we're here in it together. We're like we're canoeing things together. We're in this boat together. Everybody has to paddle in the same direction, ideally in the same pace, and we're here to support each other." And I must admit, John, there is some regulators where female leaders are just better leaders. This is compared to, so if I have to do a ratio 80 to 20, so 80% of my leaders, I would say close to 90% have been male leaders,
Okay.
and only 10% which have been female leaders. But there is some element on the females. I think their ability to on the emotion regulation
Mm.
of taking the time and having this sort of an insight that they can read you better. Uh, I think is, I don't know whether that's a a selective thing or whether that is just coming a bit natural because of females, without, of course, putting anybody into some sort of bracket. But I just feel that in
Sure.
general, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, there's a stereotype of a nurturing,
no, yeah,
motherly
yeah,
type
yeah.
setting. However, I would also posit that anyone who gains success as someone like in a minority of
Mhm,
the people. So if it's a male-dominated field and you're a woman who rises to leadership,
mhm,
part of that journey is being attuned to the emotions and reading those to navigate. And similarly, if you're the only ethnically diverse or only
mhm.
LGBT person among a heterogeneous kind of
Yeah,
sexual
yeah,
organization, you have to have
mhm,
learned to navigate that, which
mhm,
requires, I think, the ability to read and regulate
mhm.
emotions more soundly. So I think it's probably more of a combination of those things
Yeah,
that
yeah.
gives that. But we know that if you are like excelling in a group of people like you don't have, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of obstacles that you just don't have to do. It
Mhm,
doesn't mean that you're less than, it's just you don't have to necessarily figure out what someone's thinking when everybody thinks
mhm,
like you.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And again, going back to the ability to understand the other person, being in their shoes, having that reflective thought is a lot more emotional regulated than anything else. how do I open up? How do you open up towards me? What are the type of questions I need to ask in order for you to relax? Just imagine me and you're sitting there, in front of each other, and we're not saying anything. Then who will open up first? Who's going to start? Can you are you good in reading this person? Can you see on his face expression? Is he breathing properly? Is he sad? How are the emotions doing? And I think that's a skill. Honestly, it's a skill that you need to focus on for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of people, I think, feel like it's just a characteristic that is inherent or not, but
Mm,
it is definitely a skill that can be learned when you have an understanding of how the brain works. You build common language so that you can ask questions that really get to the meaning of what you're
mm,
trying to understand. It's
mm,
and you need the space to get it wrong before you get it right. And that's harder to do, I think, these days. Like people
mm,
have expectations that, everybody will be at the same starting point. When reality, like when did you formally, learn about emotions? I don't know. The last time I did, it was like primary school. Like, and then you're on your own. You learn by first
mm,
grade, you've got all the emotion learning that you're really
mm.
getting. What's your experience been
Yeah, yeah.
in your kind of formal learning
So,
level?
so I guess, of course, there's the element of formal education. I did, a typical computer science degree, but then, it really embarking on an MBA as well. So a bit interesting because then you would have a subject specifically designed on that. But then again, it's very theoretical, and how do you use it? And you need to, of course, apply it in some sort of context. I would say where it's probably has been beneficial is when you've had coaches coming in. Uh, I think that was a good experience. So you as a person have a coach as well. This is something that in so I know IBM did it a lot, and also parts of Oracle. So you would have the so that is one aspect. You will have some sort of a formal training on it.
Hmm.
But then again, you the other type of training would be your own leader. How are they doing? Are you feeling relaxed, or do you have a level of anxiety whenever you're facing them? I think
Right.
these type of elements, but again, it's a bit if you're not aware of it, and if it's not something that you feel some at some point in your career that this is actually beneficial, let me try to reframe this. So instead of coming in and having a regular conversation on customers, let's just put that out of the window. Say, listen, how are you doing? Yeah, how are you feeling emotionally? I've actually had leaders where I was really surprised that that's the way they wanted to start the conversation with, and I'm like, okay. And you said, is there something hidden? Is there a hidden agenda? I said, no, I just want to make sure that how are you feeling? Like, don't tell me about your customers or whatever the challenge is. Just how are you feeling? You know,
Yep.
the the heart, the mind. How's your gut? How's the stomach? Do you have butterflies? Are you happy here? Is there something I can do for you? Again, creating that comfort zone that we talked about. And
Yeah.
suddenly it's like, okay, and you learn something new about them. Oh, by the way, that also for them to maybe share a story, a thought, or say, okay, this guy is also, even though he's a high performer, he's a vice president, leading a big organization, but he's also, yeah, I just like to, when it comes Friday evening or Saturday, I don't pick up any phone calls. I like to go for a game. I like to spend some time. I like to do something voluntary. I go and so that is also very, very inspiring. Yeah. I hope that answers your question, John. Maybe a little.
Yeah, well, it's like you keep coming back to these just very like human-centered
Mm,
approaches. If you were to give like a piece of advice to the individual contributors out there in sales who might have aspirations to be a leadership in leadership one day, what do you think the core skills they should focus on to best prepare themselves for a leadership role like you're in now?
So it's a very, very good question. I think first of all, having that insights and vulnerability that I can seek support.
Mm,
Yeah. Being able to articulate and put some words on it. What is it that I need? A lot of the time, we will go without really uh, having an understanding of that.
so
So I guess, having that, the ability to articulate this, I said, this is what I need. Uh, and then, of course, I would say, it's a good question. I would say for me, it was really to identify who were actually my role models,
mm,
who were I aspiring to be, having maybe their competencies and credentials, but still being me. What is it that they did so well that I thought, okay, I want to capture that and keep it as a part of my, toolbox. I think that
right.
these are some of the things I would say. And then again, I know that we are always inspiring to set some goals, but what if your goal is, oh, I want to be CEO for a big Fortune 500 company,
Right.
and you're still a middle manager, you're gonna get stressed. So, so always saying, the ability to accept a new reality as well, redirect. I think are some good indicators. You also have to be a bit more realistic. If you're putting in, no doubt, if you're putting in the hours, but having that right balance. What is it that makes me happy? What is it that it does? And sometimes I would say I've also learned good individual contributors don't necessarily make good leaders.
Mm,
So that's being a leader is a big Um, it's a big task for sure, and I would say most leaders are not good leaders either. They're just in here for yeah, they're just here because they're a part of a setup, and you need that. And they've
yeah.
I also feel that most companies that's a sort of a loyalty tag or appreciation that you've been with us for so many years, so you're going to go naturally up, which might
Mhm.
not always justify that well, yeah, it might not justify for them being actually leaders, but yeah,
It's an interesting.
that is my perception at least.
I love it. And there are a few different flavors of knowing your own needs in there, right?
Mm,
And
mm,
that is a big piece that I would emphasize as well is figure out what you need because like sometimes we get caught up in that churn of culture that we always have to be climbing, which leads to getting promoted into a role that you're not good at, but you were good at the one right before, which landed you the promotion. Now you're a leader, and A, these might not be things that you wanted to be good at anyway. And
mm,
here
mm,
you are. What do you do with that? So getting
mm.
clear on what you need, being able to ask for that support, and really look to role models so that you can set goals to have aspects of what was
Absolutely.
important about their leadership for yourself. I think those are very wise words, and that anyone trying to climb the ladder would benefit from that. And another thing I heard you say is throughout, and I have this as a guiding principle as well, is that every interaction that you have with someone, there's opportunity to learn something new.
Mm. Absolutely right. I
Mm,
agree with that. You will always learn something for sure. Yeah.
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 Zane, I want to thank you so much for taking time to share your insights and have a discussion with me today. I have to wrap us up, but thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, John. I appreciate it, and thank you for having this conversation with me.